Welcome, and thank you for joining me and my colleagues for the State of the County 2022. It's great to spend time with you. Tonight, I'll highlight some of our accomplishments, lay out priorities for the year ahead, and welcome remarks from my colleagues. Let me start with some thoughts on COVID. We're now beginning year 3 of the pandemic, and our focus remains on helping to keep you safe, investing in our economic recovery, and being responsive to community needs. Although cases have dramatically declined so far this year, we know that the virus can still surprise us. We all need to stay ready should a new variant emerge. I'm thankful that we have a high vaccination rate that includes delivering vaccines to our minority communities. We also remained focused on ensuring we address any disproportionate pandemic impacts to marginalized communities. We continue to monitor the pandemic realities and adjust our services and operations as necessary. I know I speak for the entire Board of Commissioners to express our sincere appreciation for the thousands of dedicated Washington County staff who continue to demonstrate their resilience and flexibility in delivering for you. Thank you. Please continue to do your part. Help your families and neighbors get vaccinated and boosted to help contain the spread of the virus. On the economic front, we continue to help our community recover from the impacts of the pandemic. Our strategy is to holistically support businesses, schools, communities, families, and individuals by targeting our federal American Rescue Plan Act dollars. In all, the county has $116 million in federal funds to help our community recover, and we have until the end of 2024 to invest those dollars. As with all funding decisions, we view them through an equity lens. Commissioner Willie will also be discussing this topic in his remarks coming up shortly. When you look around, it's easy to see that Washington County is growing and becoming more diverse. The recently published 2020 Census information captured this change, despite minority communities being undercounted across the country. Here, the data shows that 70,000 more people live here, and that people of color now represent 39% of the population. In fact, the majority of our population growth over the past 20 years has been in diverse communities, with 88% attributed to people of color. We use census data to help guide our work and inform our policies and programs as we center the community in all we do. The ever-changing face of the county also calls on us to foster the careers of a more diverse workforce. The board is committed to investing in our diverse community and in our workforce. It's really a new day in Washington County. Just 2 years ago, we launched our comprehensive effort to address racial inequities. It started with the board approving an equity resolution, and since then we've created a strong foundation to center racial equity. Let me highlight just a few. We established an Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement. We're following through on our commitment to invest in and support the work of the Chief Equity Officer and her team while embracing change throughout the county. We're creating equity best practices based on data. We created a budget equity tool to ensure all expenditures are viewed through an equity lens. And we're expanding our community engagement to include the creation of an advisory council on racial equity with community leaders. We recently created a land acknowledgement to recognize Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of the land, now known as Washington County. It calls on us to reflect on the role government played in its painful colonial history. I appreciate the partnership with representatives of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, whose ancestors were the Kalapulians, the first inhabitants of the county. Along with the Grand Ronde, representatives of the Nez Perce, Siletz, and Yavapai nations helped create this land acknowledgement. This is just a first step as we commit to eliminating inequities faced by Indigenous individuals and tribes. Looking ahead, our equity commitment and willingness to embrace change has put the county on a path to a much brighter future. And while we have made much progress, we remain dedicated to fully delivering on this work for the long term. Another critical issue we're dedicated to addressing is climate change. It's a topic of increasing board focus, and we need to harness the energy of our community to ensure the board delivers on its environmental stewardship. We must fully align ourselves to take on the environmental issues of today and those we face in the future. Not surprisingly, the issue we hear most about and what we see all around us is homelessness. I want to highlight how we're expanding the availability of affordable housing and delivering the important wraparound social services that help respond to this complex issue. With the community support of Metro's affordable housing and supportive housing services funding measures, we now have more tools in our toolkit to effect real change. That means we have $116 million to build new permanent affordable housing. Last year, we opened the Viewfinder with 81 apartments for individuals, families, and some apartments specifically dedicated for veterans. This year, we're on track to open 90 newly constructed apartment homes. This includes 36 new apartments at the Valfrey at Avenida 26 in Forest Grove. I want to take a moment to thank LMC Construction for its great work of exceeding their equitable contracting goals. So far, 63% of construction hours worked have been completed by people of color. This is a great success. Keep it up. In Tigard, the Terrace Glen project just broke ground, and when it opens in 2023, it'll be our largest affordable housing facility with 144 apartments. The Aloha Inn will be the county's first permanent supportive housing project with 54 apartments. This special type of affordable housing provides residents the stability of long-term housing while also receiving critical wraparound supports. In all, we have 812 apartments in the pipeline. Building affordable apartments is just part of the solution to this crisis, but other options are needed. This includes maintaining existing affordable housing facilities owned by the Housing Authority of Washington County. The Housing Authority owns almost 900 affordable apartments and is investing over $40 million in renovations. Rent assistance vouchers are another tool to help bridge the gap between income and the high cost of housing. It ensures housing stability. Currently, we're providing 3,200 vouchers to low-income families and individuals and people experiencing homelessness, including veterans, families, and foster youth. This year, we've added 500 new long-term rent assistance subsidies that will help people access stable housing. This housing-first approach to ending homelessness will grow year over year for the next 3 years. We've also increased the number of temporary shelter beds that serve as a first step towards housing stability. Our bridge shelter programs have opened more than 100 year-round beds this year, with a goal of expanding that to 250. Just having a roof over your head is often not enough to keep someone housed. It requires both housing and wraparound social service support. That's why the Supportive Housing Services Program is so critical to helping our most vulnerable neighbors move into housing and preventing people from becoming houseless in the first place. We're also partnering with organizations to ensure we deliver culturally specific and culturally responsive support. I'd like to share a brief story about how our work is impacting lives. David, his wife Tamara, and their service terrier Lola came to the Bridge Shelter in Hillsborough after the church shelter they were using shut down. The Bridge Shelter program helps transition individuals out of homelessness by providing individual rooms, meals, and case management. Community partner Greater Good Northwest worked with David and his wife to get him access to disability benefits, rent assistance, and approval for an apartment. David explains, "I wanted to apply for Social Security and disability income, but I had to prioritize my next meal." The good news is that David and his wife have since moved into an apartment. This story demonstrates that people experiencing houselessness need more than a temporary roof over their heads. With a wide range of supportive services, they're able to successfully transition to stable housing. Let me share a few other successes since supportive service funding became available just last summer. We've doubled our capacity to support those experiencing homelessness, adding 38 housing navigators who are out in the community working to help families and individuals move into permanent and stable housing. I'm proud that the county continues to be a leader in addressing the homeless crisis. We're the first jurisdiction in Oregon to join the federal House America initiative. This initiative focuses on leveraging federal and local funds to end homelessness and support affordable housing. We're involved in this effort because of our existing, expanding, and new programs that take an innovative approach to address this issue. I also want to give a shout out to our housing authority, who received the Moving to Work designation. That means we can be more flexible as we administer federal HUD programs. Here's an example of how it will impact our community this year. Housing vouchers will be set aside specifically for families experiencing homelessness in partnership with the Beaverton School District. As I've said before, I'm pleased that the county has moved quickly to address the needs of people experiencing homelessness in a thoughtful, compassionate, and responsive way. Our strong community partnerships play a vital role in our approach. Another area where partnerships are critical to our success is in our system of public safety and justice. There are many pressures on this complicated system, and the backlog of criminal court cases that grew during the pandemic has only added to them. Our focus is on working together with our cities, our county public safety departments, state circuit courts, and our legislature to approach questions about funding, service levels, and long-term facility needs. As we engage in these strategic discussions, we need to continue advocating for proven programs that help individuals break the cycle of crime, and most importantly, prevent them from entering the system in the first place. This means holding our legislature to the commitments they've made to fund community corrections. These transformative services are helping individuals address addictions, find success in the job market, and begin a journey towards lasting change. When we support this approach, we not only relieve pressure on our public safety system, we help people turn their lives around, and that benefits our whole community. Now, I'd like to welcome my colleagues on the Board of Commissioners to share their thoughts and priorities for 2022. You'll hear from District 1, Nafisa Fai, District 2, Pam Treese, District 3, Roy Rogers, and District 4, Jerry Willey, who also serves as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I'm pleased to join you and my colleagues for my second State of the County address. I'm proud to serve District 1, that includes Beaverton, Aloha, Cooper Mountain, and Reedville. The biggest issue impacting our community remains the ongoing pandemic and the economic impact. With COVID still impacting our community, I hope that you and your family stay healthy and get fully vaccinated. Washington County continues to do better than the state average in vaccination rates. I like to extend my thanks to our staff and community partners for their continued coordinated effort to ensure that vaccines are available and accessible in Washington County. As someone who's passionate about public health, I'm dedicated to making our communities stronger and healthier, including advocating for and passing policies that increase health outcomes. Before I touch on what's ahead for the county this year, I'd like to highlight a few of the accomplishments I'm most proud of. First, joining the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. Historically, transportation systems were envisioned and built for a limited range of users. By serving on this committee, I can lend my voice to the discussion and decisions taking place today. I'm committed to applying an equity lens in transportation planning so that the system is more accessible to all users. Second, passing Ordinance 878, which banned the selling flavored tobacco products. It's imperative that when making policy decisions, we consider the entirety of our elected roles. As the local public health authority, we have a critical role to address youth smoking epidemic. I'm proud that Washington County was the first local government in Oregon to adopt this bold and necessary policy to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products. Third, launching our District 1 town halls and civic engagement sessions. When I was running for election, I committed to launching these sessions to make government more accessible and transparent. During these online events, community members echoed their interest in equity in transportation, affordable housing, and alternative shelter options, public safety, and access to elected officials. This year, I intend to build on what I have heard and continue to work on centering the voices of the constituents we serve. Looking forward, my priorities for 2022 include addressing the need to expand our shelter offerings. The team at Washington County is actively working towards the goal of providing 250 additional year-round shelter beds. The reality of the houseless crisis today is that the streets have become the waiting room for permanent housing. This is unacceptable. We need to work with our jurisdictional and community partners to meet our unhoused community members where they are in their journey towards permanent supportive housing. I'm also working to improve our transportation system with a focus on expanding access to public transit and ensuring safe streets for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles. We have the unique opportunity in Oregon with the $412 million in federal flexible funds from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to prioritize projects and programs with better climate and equity impact, like safe routes to school, great streets, and local climate planning. I'm also focused on our important role in protecting and promoting the health of those who live, work, and play in Washington County. COVID is not over. We're just moving into a new phase of response and recovery. During this phase, we will continue to work locally, regionally, and statewide with community to develop a plan for resiliency. There is a historical and problematic system of defunding public health. We must invest in evidence-based policies that support healthy communities. We must identify permanent ways to ensure we are flexible and responsive to the emerging needs of our community. This includes increasing public health capacity while addressing social determinants of health equity. I like to end with few thoughts. My colleagues and I are dedicated to ensuring our work is transparent so you can track our progress and get involved. When I was elected, I vowed to make sure that the people most impacted by our decisions would help us shape policy and reach solutions. Your thoughts, ideas, and feedback are so important to help Washington County better serve you. While I'm in the community, I hope to connect with you. I'm also accessible, so please reach out. Thank you for your time, and I'm pleased to welcome my colleague, Commissioner Pam Treese.
Thank you, Commissioner Fye and Chair Harrington. It's good to be here for the State of the County address. I'm honored to serve District 2 that includes Bethany, Cedar Hills, Cedar Mill, Helvetia, Raleigh Hills, Rock Creek, and portions of both Beaverton and Hillsborough. I'd like to start with sharing some of my priorities for the year ahead. Since arriving on the Commission a little over 3 years ago, I was definitely not expecting to help lead the county during a public health emergency. As we have eased out of the immediate stress of those days, we still face the challenges we had prior to the pandemic. One of those challenges is ensuring enough affordable housing choices for everyone who calls Washington County home. As you know, we live in a wonderful community and in a very desirable location. However, we face a shortage of affordable housing options and have limited opportunities to build more housing. This makes the price of existing homes increase substantially and demand outpaces supply. Specifically, I'd like to touch on a shortage of what we call middle housing. I'm proud of the county's implementation of House Bill 2001 that helps tackle this issue. This bill was adopted by the legislature in 2019 to allow for middle housing, which are duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, cottage clusters, and townhouses in all residential districts that allow single-family detached housing. These rules apply to all 3 metro counties and most cities. It's significant because it allows our county to expand the options of affordable housing for our residents in the urban unincorporated area, which can be less expensive than creating new detached housing. Many communities in the county have historically only allowed single-family detached dwellings, while restricting smaller and attached housing types that tend to be lower cost. By making existing neighborhoods that are primarily full of single-family dwellings more welcoming by allowing them to include a range of housing types, we go a long way toward increasing equity in our communities. I recently had the opportunity to talk to one of the builders implementing middle housing in River Terrace 2.0, a planned community in Tigard. It's an example of how a community can be strategically developed to allow for diverse housing opportunities, creating a complete neighborhood for everyone. This includes having a multimodal transportation system, public spaces for parks, protected and enhanced natural areas, and efficient and equitable public infrastructure. I believe these more inclusive and diverse housing communities will help address our ongoing regional housing crisis. It also helps rectify historical inequities in our neighborhoods, which is the way of our future. While this is very encouraging, middle housing is only one tool in our toolbox, and pricing for middle housing can still be too expensive for many households in the county to afford. Equally important is addressing affordable housing and homelessness. I appreciate Chair Harrington's comprehensive summary of our work in this area. I want to add that I was pleased to join Chair Harrington and my colleague, Commissioner Fye, on a recent tour of a 120-bed shelter in Multnomah County. The Laurelwood Center opened in 2019 for women and couples. It provides a roof over their heads, a real sense of community, while also having on-site supportive services available to help individuals successfully transition into stable housing. Since opening, more than 1,000 people have stayed there, and more than 300 people transitioned into housing. This facility will serve as a model as we continue to address this issue. I'm also proud to serve on several panels that provide leadership and oversight to our community partners as we work together to prevent and end homelessness. This includes the Homeless Plan Advisory Committee, the Public Advisory Board that is responsible for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and the Home Investment Partnership Program grants, among other assignments. Another priority of mine continues to be ensuring that all families can access childcare in our county. Here, we are in a childcare desert. There are only 2,200 publicly funded slots for more than 15,000 children under the age of 5. The median cost of care is between $650 to nearly $1,400 a month, depending on the setting. So even if you're able to get in, it's not necessarily affordable. This is an issue of economic importance. Women removing themselves from the workforce has been happening at an alarming rate during the pandemic. And without affordable childcare, it will become increasingly difficult to get them back. Without these women in the workforce, our economy suffers and our families suffer. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an economic development issue. In response, we increased the number of licensed providers and increased the capacity for home-based affordable childcare throughout our community. But we know the demand is still there. I will continue to work to ensure we expand safe and affordable childcare in our community. Let me turn to another priority of mine, which is improving the quality of life and making communities better. One way to accomplish this is to engage and listen to feedback from stakeholders and our neighbors. That feedback has been central to our work to improve our website and streamline access to our services. We've been planning and designing this major website upgrade for the past 2 years. I can attest to the county staff's dedication to this project. The new website will be easier to navigate, even with a mobile device or a phone, and it will allow visitors to get more business done with the county more quickly. Look for the new website rollout this fall. Let me wrap up by sharing what I am most proud of, and that is the discipline and application of our equity work in everything that we do. For every issue, equity is top of mind. It is the first question we ask when we are reviewing policies, budgets, and projects. Our county has changed dramatically and will continue to evolve as we embed our equity values consistently. I really appreciate spending time with you. I'd like to now welcome my colleague, Commissioner Roy Rogers.
Thank you, Commissioner Treese and Chair Harrington. I'm glad to be participating in this year's State of the County Address. I'm honored to be serving District 3 for almost 38 years now, representing the cities of Tigard, Tualatin, King City, Durham, and Sherwood on the Board of County Commissioners. First, I'd like to give you an update on the status of our 16-year-plus effort to upgrade Scoggins Dam in western Washington County. As you may know, although the county manages Scoggins Valley Park, the dam and Hague Lake are actually owned by the Federal Bureau of Reclamation. In addition to being a wonderful recreational destination, Hague Lake serves as the primary and critical water supply source for much of our county. It not only provides drinking water for more than 400,000 residents and irrigation for 17,000 acres of the state's most productive farmland, it also provides additional summertime flow to the Tualatin River to protect water quality and fish habitat. The water in the reservoir is managed through a partnership between all the local entities that have contracts for stored water behind the dam, including Clean Water Service, Tualatin Valley Irrigation District, and the cities of Beaverton, Hillsborough, and Forest Grove. The Board of County Commissioners also serves as the Board of Clean Water Services, and so the county has been a part of this journey for many years as well. So why the need to upgrade the dam? Well, unfortunately, several years ago, we learned that Scoggins Dam had been identified as one of the most seismically vulnerable dams within the Bureau of Reclamation's inventory. This in light of the looming prospect of a future Cascadia subduction zone earthquake presents both a public safety threat as well as a threat to our region's water supply and economy. To address this challenge, our regional partners have been working diligently for more than 16 years to facilitate the necessary Scoggins Dam safety modifications to protect public safety and the basin's primary water supply against a major earthquake, and also meet the long-term municipal, agricultural, and environmental water needs of our region. Since 2016, Reclamation, Clean Water Services, and other partners have been working together to consider the technical feasibility of 3 design concepts and their associated costs. The first option is to modify the existing dam. This would include upgrades to dam safety and secure the existing water supply. It would cost an estimated $750 million and would qualify for a cost-share agreement with Reclamation for 85% federal and 15% local funding. Our second option would be to modify and raise the existing dam. This includes dam safety modifications and expansion of the existing reservoir. The third would be to construct a new downstream dam. This option would construct a new concrete dam to ensure dam safety and include additional storage. Although all options were found to be technically feasible in 2020, the first option to modify the existing dam has been chosen, mainly due to the fact that both options 2 and 3 came in at a staggering $1.2 billion and would not qualify for the same cost-share agreement with the federal government. In fact, costs associated with the additional water storage benefits of both would be the responsibility of local beneficiaries, such as Clean Water Services, which isn't financially feasible for our region. As a result of all the years of coordination and advocacy with our regional partners and with the ongoing support and leadership from Senators Wyden and Merkley and Representative Bonamici, Scoggins Dam appears to be well positioned as a high priority project for near future investment. In addition, with the recent passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that our federal congressional delegation worked to secure, we're seeing an unprecedented level of funding for water infrastructure, including a significant increase in funding for the Bureau of Reclamation's Safety of Dams program. The good news, this surge in federal funding investment represents a clear pathway forward to finally make the necessary seismic improvements to Scoggins Dam, and to do so on an accelerated timeline. Next, I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight the great work of our regional workforce development partner, Work Systems, Inc. I'm proud to serve on the Portland Metro Workforce Development Board and represent the needs of Washington County job seekers and employers. The Washington County Public Workforce System is a public-private partnership of 7 agencies and 17 community-based organizations serving together locally to connect and coordinate resources that help people get the skills, training, and education they need to advance their careers. We also help to ensure that the public workforce system serves businesses by developing qualified employees. This partnership has served us well over the years, and especially throughout the pandemic. In program year 2020, nearly $4.3 million in combined local, state, and federal resources were targeted to Washington County and used to further our workforce development goals, including a $500,000 grant from our Board of Commissioners to develop pathways to living wage, high-quality careers in the construction industry. What's so great about this approach is that it doesn't just provide things like career information sessions, pre-apprentice training, and career coaching. It also addresses barriers to employment with rent assistance, child care, and other supportive services. And the outcomes are really encouraging. With our Washington County Construction Careers Grant administered by Work Systems, Inc., well over 200 people have been served, and 84% of those are women and people of color. On top of that, construction training has resulted in an 80% job placement rate, which is outstanding. Moving forward, we'll continue to collaborate with our regional partners to ensure that our public workforce system is aligned, integrated, and well-funded to provide maximum support to employers, job seekers, workers, and community-based partners as we emerge from the pandemic and continue into economic recovery. With those comments, I really want to thank you for joining us, and I'll turn this over to my colleague, Commissioner Jerry Willey.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers and Chair Harrington. I'm glad to be participating in the 2022 State of the County Address. Currently, I serve as Vice Chair of the Board of Commissioners and District 4, which includes a large portion of rural areas of Washington County, including Banks, North Plains, Forest Grove, Cornelius, and Gaston. I'd like to start with sharing some of my priorities for the years ahead. I represent a large rural area, and one of my major priorities is something that became especially obvious to me early in the pandemic. It was the lack of reliable broadband service in less populated areas. Even today, as we begin the 3rd year of our public health emergency, broadband is still an essential tool that is not equally available throughout the county. One of my assignments as your commissioner is to represent Western Washington County on the Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, also called COLPAC. In addition to Washington County, the district also represents Columbia, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties. Through my experience on COLPAC, I noted that it's not just Western Washington County in need of reliable and affordable broadband services. Last summer, Working in partnership with COPAC, we initiated a study identifying where there are gaps in service within all 4 of the COPAC counties. Thanks to our consultant, Uptown Services, we were able to map out those areas through this study. In addition to the study of our rural areas, our commission is undertaking a countywide effort to address broadband deficiencies. Earlier this year, our Economic Development Director contracted with a consultant to assist with the creation of a countywide broadband investment strategy. We anticipate the report will be available in early summer. The purpose of the strategy is to focus specifically on our county and its residents and businesses to develop a plan for how we will invest in broadband infrastructure. The goal being reliable, fast, and affordable broadband for everyone to access. With this new study in conjunction with the COPAC study, our county is well positioned and strategically ready to invest in projects once the anticipated dollars from the federal government start flowing. This money is expected from different funding areas, including ARPA capital project funding, CARES Act community development block grants, and a variety of other sources. Much of the funding will flow through the Oregon Business Department and our Oregon Broadband Office. In preparation for that, the Broadband Office is preparing the structure to identify how they can best invest in a statewide broadband. Through my engagement on the Broadband Action Team for the Northwest region of Oregon, I am ensuring representation of our county in conversations with the state. As mentioned, we are entering into the 3rd year of living with COVID, and we're still dealing with its ramifications, from the impact it's had on our public health system to how it has hurt our small businesses and industry sectors. That leads me to my second priority, which is to continue supporting the economic recovery of businesses that are still grappling with the effects of the pandemic. Early in 2020, the county was fortunate to receive funding from the CARES Act, which, among other things, significantly helped businesses recover economically. Since then, we received a second round of federal stimulus money through the American Rescue Plan Act, also called ARPA. We will receive in total $116 million from ARPA in 2 different tranches and have until the end of 2024 to obligate it. Our first tranche disbursement of about $58 million was received in May 2021. This means we can be thoughtful and strategic in how we use this money. Currently, I sit on our ARPA steering committee here at the county to help guide the process and principles behind our decisions for this first tranche. In this role, I remain staunchly committed to maintaining our focus on ensuring workforce and economic support. Toward that end, we have the first tranche, about $5 million, dedicated to economic recovery. This money has been focused on ARPA economic development staff and immediate need workforce support. I'm also proud to report that your county's responsible handling of these dollars has not gone unnoticed, as we have been recognized as the best practice leader for ARPA, one of only 4 counties in the entire country to receive that honor. As we focus now on the second tranche of funding, our economic recovery moves into the thoughtful recovery phase, focusing on strategic investments in people, business, and a place that is informed by community priorities. I look forward to seeing our plan develop for this second phase of our ARPA funding. I'm most proud of our work to help secure affordable broadband solutions to our communities in need and to help guide the allocation of dollars from ARPA to support the recovery of our business community. Before I hand this over to the chair, I would like to take a moment to put on my former mayor of Hillsborough hat. The destruction caused by a fire in January to Hillsborough's Main Street was incredibly disheartening to see. This is a city I care deeply about and was pleased to allocate some of my community services fund to the Hillsborough Community Foundation to help support the recovery of businesses impacted by the fire. Hillsborough is a tight-knit and resilient community, and I believe will come back stronger than before. Thank you for joining us for the State of the County Address, and now I'd like to turn it over to Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Commissioners, for participating and sharing your priorities on what's ahead for Washington County. I know our community appreciates hearing from the full board. I'd now like to turn to a few additional topics. I'm proud to be a champion for economic development through workforce training, especially building wealth in racial and ethnic communities that have been marginalized by government systems. Since 2019, we've invested $1 million in the apprenticeship training program at Work Systems, Inc. This helps individuals enter the construction trades and earn a living wage. The county is a strong partner in the innovative regional program called Construction Career Pathways Project. It aligns with our core value of equity, diversity, and inclusion by focusing on bringing people of color, women, and at-risk youth into the trades. This creates great opportunities for good-paying careers in construction and help address the wealth gap. Let me touch on an area where you may have seen us in action, and that's our commitment to connect and engage with you. Our town hall forums have provided a great opportunity to hear from you and for you to share your priorities. We'll host more events this year and look forward to your feedback. To ensure we hear from a wide range of voices, we also reach out to community-based organizations and other stakeholders. This truly makes a difference. Recently, your input helped shape the upcoming fiscal year 2022-23 budget proposal. And while it remains constrained, it squarely centers community needs and promoting equitable outcomes from the services we provide. We will be finalizing the budget with additional public input sessions in May and final adoption in early June. Your feedback has also improved our next Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program, often called MSTIP. This 5-year funding program targets key areas to expand safe connections for walking, biking, riding transit, and driving. Ahead, we'll launch our Community Strategic Plan effort. This plan will establish our long-term goals and outcomes, and in turn, guide the organizational structure and resources to achieve them. Finally, with new census data, we're required to redraw the commissioner district boundaries to balance each area based on population changes. We're in the early stages of this process, and we look forward to hearing from you as we propose new boundaries. The new boundaries will take effect for the 2024 election cycle. And speaking of elections, the May 17th primary is approaching, with ballots arriving in your mailbox in just a couple of weeks. There are 2 county issues on the ballot. First, Measure 34-310 continues funding for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, serving urban unincorporated areas, where about 35% of our residents live. The board unanimously supported putting this important measure forward. The levy would maintain the current level of police neighborhood patrols, fund response to 911 calls in nearly half the time of the national average, and public safety response to increased overdoses. The levy would also fund deputies connecting with people experiencing homelessness with community resources and support, as well as having the mental health response team work with deputies when responding to people in crisis. Second, Measure 34-314 is a referendum on County Ordinance 878 that seeks to repeal the County Commission-approved ordinance that prohibited the retail sales of any flavored tobacco products. It also prohibited price promotions, coupons, and discounts. More information is available in the voters pamphlet, and don't forget to turn in your ballot by Election Day. In closing, we've certainly covered a lot of community topics tonight, and I hope it gives you a clear view of our priorities and our path forward. Our priorities and our commitments remain the same. We're dedicated to transparently delivering high-quality service to you, while applying an equity lens to our programs, policies, and expenditures. We're a great community because we come together to support one another. I'm proud to report that your county government is strong and we're delivering for you. Thank you for your time and the attention. We look forward to serving you online and soon in person. Good night.